What is going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a good Sunday, a good weekend so far. We've got 13 games on the main slate on DraftKings, 14 on FanDuel, lots of showdown stuff. There's all kinds of stuff going on today. I'll be live again at 3 Eastern to talk about the afternoon, both late swaps and then what I'm doing for the afternoon slate. But I want to welcome my man in, Rody. Good to see you, man. I'm glad we get to do another show together. It feels like we'll cut the rust off. We don't have sheets today, so maybe we can get back on mine and your track because we haven't done a video just the two of us in a while.
Yeah, for sure. So,
and of
hopefully
course,
we have a good Sunday.
Sheets is here, by the way, but I just was saying.
What's that?
I said I always hope Sheets is here, but at the same time, we haven't had a chance to really do our thing this year.
Yeah.
So
Sheets is living it up, isn't he?
Yeah, he's out there. But I'll give him credit though. He's still popping in the Discord, updating the projections. He's out there like playing tournaments still somehow from Ireland. I don't know how he does it.
He might have put him in before he left. Did he do that?
He did. Yeah, he loaded a ton.
I think DK's legal over there, just not FanDuel.
He's got 12 in the top 100 of the
golf.
Right,
yeah, I heard he's in the golf.
Which is just pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, we'll get into this slate. I'm going to pull up the screen here. We're going to talk about overall stacks we like. Then we'll get into position by position. Obviously, quarterbacks and wide receivers are going to have a lot to do with those stacks. But and then we'll touch on some FanDuel as well. I guess maybe FanDuel's a good place to start. Are you playing on FanDuel all today, Rody?
I haven't entered anything. Is there anything good? I've been kind of behind on my DK builds. I've been putting so much in DraftKings that I've never.
It may have sold out. They have that 222 for 200K for first.
Oh, that's not bad. Let me look at that.
But it may have just sold out. I'm not 100% sure. Trying to sort now. Yeah, but
I better play something. I forgot I had some tickets over there, so they're entered. So I better play something.
Well, I guess since we don't have you over there right now, I'll just say what I'm going to do on FanDuel real quick, just to get it out of the way, and then we'll talk about DraftKings and stacks and all that stuff. On FanDuel, I'm heavier on the running quarterbacks in general, just because again you get more, you get a lot more value out of the rushing touchdowns and everything. So Jaden McDaniels, Justin Fields, and Richardson. Only Daniels am I using that much on DraftKings, but all three of those guys I like a lot, and they're like Stafford. You will find some potential value. Ty Johnson for the Rams. Now it's speculative play, but he's 4K. It's rare to get like that cheap of a receiver. So that's just a one play. Godwin stands out at 6,200. I think McLaurin's worth going back to at 5,700 on FanDuel. There's just a few different plays like that I found, and I found it much easier to get in one of CeeDee Lamb or one of CeeDee Lamb and Jefferson are my top ones, along with St. Brown. So those three guys, I just found it much easier to get them over on FanDuel because I'm using guys like Tyler Johnson. There's more flexibility with the salary as far as I'm concerned over there. You don't need to. Tyler Johnson is overly speculative maybe, but it's 4K. When you get it would be like him being. I know he can't be cheaper than 3K on DraftKings, but it would be like 2,500 on DraftKings just if you adjust the prices, maybe even a little bit less. So I'm going after that. Going to say what's up to my man Sam and good to see MJ in the chat, guys. Please click the like button, all that stuff. Great packages, all those same old spiel you hear from us. So that was just my little portion of a quick FanDuel breakdown, but you can feel free to ask any questions. And then me and Rody are going to talk about what stacks we like the most is the next step here, Rody. So ignore my exposures. I tried to run some builds and I wasn't getting anything I liked, so I'm hand building exclusively today. What are you getting to as your favorite games to target, and specifically, I guess how you're going to go about that?
Just a question for you: how many lineups are you playing today? You're hand building all of them?
I'm hand building I'll probably have like 75 in the millionaire, and but again, I like doing that because it forces me to condense my pool and make 2v2 pivots. So if I'm right, I'm going to have different options with the same general cast of characters.
Yeah, you're just like pivoting guys in and out of the same core, basically.
DeMarcus Robinson for the Rams or Josevich for Cincinnati. Just rotate those kind of things and switch up my defenses, things like that.
Yep.
So what are the main stacks you're looking at today? And I'm curious to get your take, especially on one game that I like a little more than. I love the over, and I like the game a lot better than maybe some other people do. And that's Green Bay.
Oh, the Indy Green Bay is the game you like?
No. It's probably my fifth or sixth highest owned.
Oh, okay.
I do like pieces of it because I think it's getting pretty under-owned as far as all these stacks go. But there's a lot of good options, a lot of good stacks out there. What are you targeting?
Yeah, this is a huge slate. I got a lot of games I like, but there's a lot of takes I just got to fade. Obviously, the Rams in Arizona is probably the one most people are gravitating towards. I really like that in the late afternoon. It's got a good total. The KC games there, the Chiefs are getting some ownership. I do like them a little bit. I've always been a Kelsey kind of guy, and everyone's like, I bet him up a little bit, but Rice is there too in that game. Probably another game that maybe more people aren't on, but the Detroit total is pretty high. I like the Detroit Bucks game a lot. That's another one I'm stacking.
I think that's going to be the most popular game.
Yeah, I think so too. Everyone says in high dollar, Amon might be a little bit higher owned. I think he does have a bounce back week. I mean, we could see Jamison Williams again for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. It wouldn't surprise me, but I think Amon bounces back against the Bucks here this week. There's a lot of weapons there for the Lions, even Gibbs and Montgomery there. There's a lot of weapons though, but I think Amon has a good game. I do like the Indy and Green Bay game a little bit. I'm a Green Bay guy. Obviously, Willis is kind of cheap. You can stack him up. There's a lot of options, but you got Anthony Richardson's good on the other side with Pittman or Mitchell. I like a little bit to stack him with. Another fast-paced game for like fast-paced is that Saints Dallas game. I'm gonna try to add a little bit more to that. I typically don't have a lot of it, but it's showing as a fast-paced game, very fast. So I might get a little bit more exposure to that. Another game I really want to play is the Chargers. I got my Chargers.
The Chargers, yeah. That's what you thought.
I have 2-5-5 satellites. I don't have any idea which lineups I'm going to put in those. I've been debating on a Charger stack to be different in one, oddball one, but I mean, it might be too much of a stretch. I just don't know.
Why not? I feel like everything's up in the air. Both. I mean, we don't know what. First of all, the Chargers, we know that they're like the Jekyll and Hyde team. You don't really know what to expect every week. This is probably going to be different a little bit under Harbaugh because they're a little more organized now.
Yeah.
But the receivers are so cheap, and anything you want to play from Carolina is going to be unowned. So I actually don't mind that idea, although I have to say the Chargers and Carolina are two of my favorite defenses also because those teams tend to do a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, no, I don't mind stacking and playing the defense. I do that a lot. We do that. I play every defense, like almost whatever fits. I've got 3K defenses. I got 2,400 defense. I got a 25, 28. I'm just kind of all over on the defense. I'm doing the sheets approach, right? Where, hey, Caps' defense no more than 20, gets all the different defenses, hoping one hits a pick 6 or something, So I think that's a good idea. But yeah, the Chargers have even Herbert's so cheap, like 5,800. They're worried about Dobbins' workload, which I like Dobbins as well. But like the Panthers looked terrible last week. So like cheap stack, you can put CeeDee Lamb, Amon St. Brown, and other good pieces around that stack. I just kind of like it. I don't know. Makes my lineup feel good.
Yeah, I understand all that. I actually ranked the games this week in terms of what I like the best. I have Tampa Bay, Detroit as number 1, but I think again, people are going to be on that. I don't think it's going to be like outrageous ownership because it's going to be higher than most of the teams. I mean, you look at it right here. Let's just take a quick look and see where we're at. The quarterbacks, obviously, it's going to be spread out. So under 10% of both, fine. Godwin, I actually thought would be a little more popular, and the fact that no one's going to play Mike Evans here, I
like the Evans pivot off that. Godwin's going to be chalky, but it's a $1,500 price difference. So Evans is probably going to be lower owned in that game.
Yeah, and then you've got some. I'm surprised this many people are actually on St. Brown. I thought I was going to be playing him as a contrarian play. I'm surprised it's even up to 15% as a projected ownership. Let's see what Goldie has him at real quick. Yeah, he's got him at 13. But I like the Evans too, and I think if you wanted to get frisky and play Baker, maybe play him with Evans in small buy and large field. I think you triple stack it with Evans, McMillan, and Godwin. That would be my favorite way to do it in a small buy and large field. Large buy in small field, I'll just play Godwin and Evans, and then I'll run it back with with Laporta, who's getting no ownership. And I love this. I have Laporta at like 20% right now, and he's getting 2% ownership. I'm very, very in on that idea. I'll touch on Brian Brooks' comment because I think it's an interesting one we can get to in a minute. But so I have Tampa Bay, Detroit number 1. I have the Rams and Arizona number 2. I am a little worried as a Rams fan about stacking games with them. McVay is such a good coach, and he will they don't have this huge deep threat. I mean, Kupp is an amazing receiver, but they're going to use him mostly on 7 to 10 yard plays that he can maybe break one open. But it might plod along and not be as high scoring as people think. However, I don't think Arizona's defense is anything I'm afraid of. And on the other side, I think that the Rams have some weaknesses on defense, and Arizona could take advantage with guys like McBride and James Conner. I like as a little bit contrarian. San Francisco, Minnesota, I have as my next game. I don't even necessarily think you have to do the quarterbacks, but I think you can take shots there, but you have to get exposure to San Francisco as far as I'm concerned. One of Samuel, Mason, Ayuk, Kittle are going to be in a good portion of my lineups just because it's just too good of a spot. And, with no McCaffrey, you just got to assume everybody else gets a bump playing in Minnesota indoors. And I think Minnesota can keep this game close too. So I like Jefferson on the other side quite a bit. Washington and the Giants. I'm going to be speculating on Washington every week. Every week, 10% of my stacks are going to be dedicated to their games. They don't play defense. Their quarterback has as much upside as anyone. He's too cheap. I'm going to go back to McLaurin because he was my one piece that just completely killed me last week. And I think they will find a way to find him against the Giants. Then I've got Cincy, KC, Indy, Green Bay, New Orleans, Dallas. But I can't play all of every one of these things. I do like the idea of getting the Rams, Arizona, partly because I can pivot over to Cincy, KC on different lineups. I think that you could just – those two games in the afternoon sort of stand out to me. And I'm trying to think a lot more about late swapping as we've been talking about it throughout the year. And that gives you some opportunity in the afternoon to try to play, you have two different stacks that you can definitely, mesh your way in depending on how your lineups are doing. And you could use SaberSim or SaberSim through TrueDFS, and it'll automatically update you, give you the best chance, in the terms of long term. So real quick to touch on Brian Brooks's question. He said, Anthony Richardson threw numerous deep balls to A.D. Mitchell last week. Richardson's going to have this every week with everybody. I would take shots on him, but you're not getting like a cheap. It's not like the problem I have with the Mitchell is like, why weren't we just playing Pierce if we're going to play Mitchell? You know what I mean? Like, I don't really see it as being you're 500 more for Pierce, who not only got thrown deep balls last week, but actually had one of the best receiving weeks of any player, and is probably going to end up what is Pierce going to be this week? 5%?
1%? Showed to be 1%, under 1%.
Yeah.
Mitchell, for what it's worth, though, Mitchell's 1%. He's under that 4. Like there's like a 4K threshold and under where there's like the 3K to 4K guys on DK. Mm-hmm. There's kind of quite a pool of those cheaper guys this week. But I mean, it's based on last week too. So guys, it's only a 1 week sample size. You got Lazard, you got McMillan, you got all these guys down there that like had games where they got in the end zone. So people talking about them this week, Demarcus Robinson at 4K as well. Tyler Johnson at 33 or 3, whatever he's at. And, there's that cheap pool this week. And Andre Losevich, he played like every snap last week, got 6 targets, 3,800 still. Like in a game that's going to be a pace-up game with the Chiefs, I think they're going to have to throw the ball, but there's a lot of bad stuff going on there. We don't know about Burrows. It seems like the Bengals are really weird right now. So I don't know, but he's a viable play too, in my opinion.
He's the only quarterback to ever face the Chiefs. To face the Chiefs, the only quarterback with 3 wins against the Chiefs with a winning record. Every other team has a losing record that's beaten them 3 times because. I think Brady was 50-50, so I think they split 6. But the Chiefs are 3-1 with Burrow against. I'm sorry, the Bengals are 3-1. You can tell their team is specifically meant to beat the Chiefs. They always start slow. Unfortunately, this is still the start of the season, but I'm expecting a little bit of a bounce back in case, and I'm expecting Cincinnati to be very much in that game. They play that team very, very, very well. And before we get into positions, MJ is asking a good question. This is such a hard question to answer because it's all slate dependent and it really depends on which quarterbacks you're using. What's your favorite stack types in general? He likes to do quarterback with 2 plus with 1 on run back. I would say for pass heavy teams, that would be a good way to go. But like, I'm not going to play 2 receivers in this game with Richardson. I would play 1. You know what I mean? I wouldn't play 2 receivers with Lamar. I would play 1. So I don't think in either of those situations you need a run back, but I generally look for a run back. How do you feel about that question? What do you think?
Yeah, I generally have always played run back. I think maybe this week I might do a stack without a run back. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Carolina one's a weird one too, but I do like Deontay Johnson to come back against the Chargers.
I love that call.
Baltimore game. I want to build a Mark Andrews stack. I think people are forgetting about Andrews at 5K again. I know Likely's there, but in Zay Flowers, I think has a bounce back game. He had a lot of targets last week, but back in the day, Lamar Andrews stack was the stack. I just don't know who to run it back for the Raiders. I kind of like Brock Bowers a little bit in that game, but I don't want to play double tight end there. So tight end was bad last week. I don't think we can get worse than last week. So this week, I'm hoping that we'll talk tight ends in a bit, but There should be a lot of like Laporta that you're on. There should be a lot of better tight ends on the slate this week.
Yeah, and I like the point you just made there with the how to stack with it is tricky to find a way that makes sense. But I like the Andrews thing. I don't necessarily have that much of him this week.
I don't
just want
either.
to point out the way that the way they defended last week. First of all, they couldn't handle the pass rush, so they needed Andrews in blocking, and they literally lined up Isaiah Likely out wide, basically as a wide receiver.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's going to necessarily be their plan every week. They shut down the middle. The Chiefs made a very concerted effort to shut down the middle of the field, also to contain Lamar. That's what they were trying to do. And I'm not saying that can't happen, but I think the Raiders have a much lower chance of actually having that work than the Chiefs do. It's not that the Raiders don't have some good talent on defense. It's just the Chiefs are a different level of team and a different level of coaching to where they really understand what to take away. But I don't think you necessarily need to run back with Lamar. Actually, in my morning slate, my one big buy-in, I have Lamar. I think I have Lamar solo. I actually didn't play anybody with. Oh no, I ended up playing Flowers with him. I think either way is fine. Flowers, Andrews. I actually think Likely even is still viable as well.
No, I think all three of those players are viable. A lot of work went to those three guys, or at least two of them. But I think Andrews has a bounce back.
Yeah,
I don't think he's going to forget about Andrews. I know he's older, but I just think he's still good. So
yeah, and we got R. Fletch asking, would you run Murray naked or with Connor and a wide receiver, or just with Connor? I am running him with McBride. And I am playing James Conner quite a bit because I'm playing the Rams on the other side, and that's my run back there. But I don't mind. Kyler to Conner has won tournaments before for people. It can happen.
Yeah, I actually got a Stafford stack with Conner as a run back too. But yeah, I think Marvin Harrison has a bounce back game. I think there was some media about that. People asking why he didn't get the ball as much. And Kyler said, it's not my job to get him the ball, basically saying the offensive coordinator wasn't making plays for Marvin Harrison last week. So basically maybe they make a staple getting their rookie involved this week. I do like a little Marvin Harrison. He's a little priced up a little bit, but I got him in a stack, like I think pairing him or that goes like the Lamar Andrews. You can go with Murray and McBride. I think is fine too,
Yeah.
One option's fine, I think, in that game.
But also game flow is a real thing. When you have a 2-touchdown lead on the road in Buffalo as an underdog, you're going to play a little bit differently. Now it didn't work out for them. Buffalo came back but partly defenses were scoring in that game. It was hard we can't just look at the one game and say, oh my, I heard people actually say today on that show, I'm not going to name the show, but they said Marvin Harrison is a bust. And I'm like, okay, one game into his career, if we're going to call the guy a bust, give me a break.
Yeah. Someone said he was running slow or something, or he didn't look fast, or I don't know. I wouldn't. It's like Bobby says, one game, guys. I'm going to go back to him with a little bit to sprinkle a little bit of him in there today. So
I'll definitely be contrarian. All right, so quarterbacks, I'll just read off my exposures, and then I'll let you get into yours. Let me just grab my sheet up here. So I've got, these will be basically all my quarterbacks right now. I've got Goff, Mayfield, and Stafford, basically a similar amount each, which is very unlike me. I like the running quarterbacks, but I did go to them. Now I got into the running quarterbacks next. Daniels, Fields, Jones, then a little bit of Mahomes, a little bit of Richardson, and a little bit of Purdy, a little bit of Burrow. But the main guys are going to be the first four, Goff, Stafford, Mayfield, and Daniels. Now, I want to say the Goff, like on paper, this makes perfect sense. Historically, Tampa Bay for the last 8 years cannot stop the run, but you can pass on them like crazy. I'm sorry, Tampa Bay stops the run, you can pass on them like crazy. Detroit wants to run, and how successful they are at doing it is going to dictate what ends up happening for the passing game there. So I'm a little worried about it, but at the same time, I'm going to go with the old rules. I don't know if Tampa Bay is going to be able to stop I think Tampa Bay will do enough to stop some of the run. And if they get out to a lead of any kind, you're going to have a lot of Goff passing. And I think it's a nice, you play Laporta, you play all that stuff. Anyway, but definitely have those guys as my favorites. Who do you highest on the quarterback?
Well, if I go by the Sims here I'm building like maybe 190 lineups, like MME, cheap stuff, $3, play action, this $1, whatever, the big ones, $3.
Yeah.
$4, just a bunch of little ones. Getting a lot of Daniel Jones, Mayfield there, Mahomes, but I'll probably up my exposure a little bit because I like the Goff game. I like Goff a lot. Matthew Stafford, I think, is a little lower owned maybe, and some bit weirder stacks there. I like add Justin Herbert in there a little bit. Getting a little bit of Geno in builds too.
Interesting.
Again, yeah, for the Sims like Geno a little bit. That's the play action sims I ran, the $3. So we'll see. Like Dak a little bit, but my main guys are going to be Goff, Stafford, Justin Fields a little bit. He's 5K. I like his rushing yard prop. It was like 41 or 45 over. I like that today.
I think so.
Denver blitzes a lot, so he tend to scramble a lot when under blitz. So the 45 is good. Rice prop at like 67 yard over. I like too. So I like the KC Mahomes stacks a lot today, as well.
Well, hopefully what we get is if you're playing the Pittsburgh side, you really hope they get down 2 scores early or something, because what they did last week and just being so conservative with Fields worries me a little bit. But it's interesting to say that a lot of people are playing Fields in cash, and he's projected to be 1% owned in tournaments. So that's
it is. It does feel weird. A lot. Yeah. I think he's a great cash play, guys. If you haven't checked out my playbook, I do give cash lineups. I basically just run an optimal build, give you the optimal build that I'm running for the day. I do post it in our premium Discord as well, guys. So if you're in there, I know some of you might want to play. I did get a cash question in there today. I do also give some pivots for cash as well, if you guys want. But I typically play mostly my high volume into tournaments. But I do run a cash lineup, just kind of hedge a little bit, just kind of play it. But yeah, Fields is the guy for that 5K, right?
Yeah, definitely check out Rhodey's playbook if you're a member, and if you're not, become a member. All right, just real quick. So our Fletch, we're about to get into running backs here. He's saying Mason or Brian Robinson. The price difference is only 600. I have some interest in Brian Robinson this week for sure. I definitely have more of Mason, but if you want the contrarian play, definitely go with Brian Robinson as the contrarian, because Mason is going to be a million% owned, and I totally understand why he's going to be, but what I would say is if you're going to play Brian Robinson, maybe you want to get Deebo Samuel in that lineup, because you're kind of talking about fading Mason. If you're fading Mason, I think Samuel's the guy who gets the rushing upside. He could run for the touchdowns instead of it being Mason, just as likely. So I would try to do something like that. Any take on Mason versus Brian Robinson?
Yeah, I thought I would see a little more Brian Robinson in these builds as a run back to the Giant stack that I'm getting a lot of, but I'm only seeing about 3% in 6 builds. So that seems like not very much. Might up my exposure to him a little bit, but I am getting about 60% Jordan Mason. I mean, that's such a great play at 5,200. He burned me kind of on Monday night, so like
How did he burn you? He had like 30, 28 fantasy points or something.
That's because I was a little lighter on him. I had a ton of Lazard.
Oh, I played the other guy too.
I took the Debo stance.
Oh, I took
and Debo sold the first touchdown. I'm like, okay, okay. And then I'm like, shoot,
Yeah.
There goes Mason running wild. So I couldn't do anything. So
yeah. No, I got you.
Debo and too much Lazard, but Lazard worked out. I just needed to put Mason in the lineup. So
yeah,
I like Mason today for what it's worth. I'm not going to cut back on his percent any.
Who?
I'm going to, whatever it gives me.
Yeah.
I'm going to put him in builds. I do have a pivot though. If we're going to running backs, Zach Charbonnet seems to be lower owned. I don't know why. No, Kenneth
another
Walker.
Cash game play that's getting low owned.
Huh?
He's another cash game guy that's getting low owned.
Yeah, I don't know why. I feel like he scored last week. He hit basically him and Walker were the only 2 running backs in the game. So I have to imagine a lot of the workload goes to Zach Charbonnet this week with Walker out of the game. And at 5,800, just a great play. I don't know.
I'm with you. I mean, and I'll jump into running backs overall here. I'll go through my exposures, and then maybe you could say what you like. I have Mason almost 50%.
Yep.
But I'm extremely high on Josh Jacobs today.
I like that.
And I don't really understand what's happening, to be honest with you, in terms of Jacobs. We just saw Joe Mixon run all over this Indy team. That you're missing your quarterback. You have a big offseason signing with Jacobs. Why is Jacobs going to be sub 10% here? Why are we assuming all these other guys ahead of him? So I actually have Jacobs way up there. I've got him about 30% right now. I've got Derrick Henry 25%. The other one I'm taking a huge stand on, partly because I'm willing to gamble on some of these cheap receivers. Jonathan Taylor in that same game. Both situations, I still am not sure I trust Green Bay's defense. Sorry, Rody, but I like to try and get it heavy against them, and I do think that getting Jonathan Taylor at really low ownership today is interesting. After that, I get to Singletary, Breece Hall. I'm a little lower on Hall than the field is. Just again, Tennessee generally better at stopping the run, but no issue with. I mean, obviously, Breece Hall is Breece Hall. Jahmyr Gibbs, I have next at 15%. That's because primarily a part of stacks. Same thing with James Conner. And I'd like to get more of Kyron Williams than I have. He's one guy I'm down at 11%. I'd like to get some more. And then followed by the other just around 10% guys are Brian Robinson, Charbonnet. But it is interesting to maybe get over on Charbonnet. That's something I should probably look into. Who do you think is going to be your highest owned? You mentioned the Mason. Other than that, who are your favorites?
Yeah, Mason probably high up. I mean, and the Sims are giving me a lot of the Brees Hall. I'm building about 10 builds by hand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a lot of Brees Hall in my hand builds, so I'll probably keep the exposure higher in the Sims builds I'm building. J.K. Dobbins I'm getting a little bit of.
Yep.
I do like the Jahmyr Gibbs call that you mentioned. I really like the Josh Jacobs call that you mentioned as well. I think and the Jonathan Taylor in that same game. I had a little bit Taylor last week. I think he does well this week again.
Yep.
I just worry about the offense moving the ball with Green Bay with Willis, but I mean, Willis is only 5K too if you want to stock that game, but as running back exposures we go, I'm not getting a lot of Kamara. I think maybe I want to boost him up in that higher pace game. He did get a lot of work last week, even in the blowout.
Yep.
Najee Harris, another guy that's cheap, and James Conner at 6,400, kind of down here on the lower side of my exposure. I might bump up a little bit in these builds. And Kyron, I didn't get a lot of him. Well, I'm going to add a lot of him. I'm getting a lot of him in the hand builds.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely going to add him more exposure as well. Another guy that looks like he's forgotten about is Pacheco. I don't think he's that high owned either.
Yeah, 12% they got him at, and I think that he might even be a little bit lower, but I like that play too.
Yeah, so maybe a lower owned. Just trying to give you guys some pivots that are a little lower owned. That I'm going to probably boost up all those guys a little bit in my builds.
Yeah, I have a take that look. It's a gross one, and I'm only playing it in a few lineups, but one of them is a big buy-in. I called out the thing. I played him last week. Nobody else was on that Dobbins play, but I was saying that because he runs similar to Eckler, and Eckler, by the way, another story why I'm a little worried about Robinson, because I have a feeling Eckler may end up emerging at times as being the main guy sometimes for Washington. But a similar type of back is Dobbins, and the Chargers just offense should be somewhat familiar with that. The difference is this week, and it could also be a different type of game. It might be more of a Gus Edwards type of game this week. That's just my take. If it was like a smaller showdown type of slate, I would have maybe a stronger take. I don't think you need to play either of them. But last week, Dobbins broke a few big plays and they stayed on the field because of it. This could be a week where they might be able to run over Carolina. Of course, we'll get into that in a little bit. For whatever reason, Carolina is my highest on defense. So I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, we'll get into wide receivers next. I'll start off, like you could see, I was running exposures and stuff. Or I was running builds. I didn't like what I was getting, but you could see they really wanted to give me Cooper Kupp at 80%. I have no problem. Cooper Kupp's projected to be 30% owned. I'm going to be overweight that. I bet I have a bet through a friend of mine at 100 to 1 on Cooper Kupp to lead the league in receiving, and at 125 to 1 to lead the league in catches. So far, he's off to a good start, and with no Puka, it's hard to ignore him. So I do have him on both sides, but especially FanDuel is number one. I think I'm going to lower my exposure to Josevic. I do like the Josevic play, but it's going to be very popular. And we mentioned some other guys like Lazard, like Ty Johnson, like the Rams' other DeMarcus Robinson. All in this price range that I think we can spread out a little bit, and maybe I can get a little less Josevic. But I have 28% right now, Mike Evans, and he's we got 3% on him. I'll gamble, man. I'll take, and I have 25% on Godwin, 22% on St. Brown. Then I get to Ty Johnson, Malik Neighbors. I have probably too much Wan'Dale Robinson. I don't think it's going to be the same game script. And then I've got McLaurin, Rashee Rice. This is all in order: DeMarcus Robinson, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Pierce, CeeDee Lamb, Deebo Samuel. I need to get more Deebo Samuel as I look at my ownership. I'm glad we're doing this so that's. I know I named a lot of the guys you're going to like, but which ones do you agree with, and which ones maybe do you disagree with, or who do you like the best?
Yeah, I like a lot of those guys you mentioned. I am seeing a lot of Wan'Dale Robinson, like you mentioned. People are showing me some builds with Wan'Dale too. I get text messages still from buddies like, "Hey, what do you think of this lineup?" But and Wan'Dale's in it. It seems like everyone's going to the Giants this week. With Daniel Jones, the optimizer's giving me some Giants too. So him and Neighbors are kind of up there. I like Deebo. I am getting a fair amount of Deebo, about 20% in my Sims here. I'm doing different Sims and stuff, and I'm doing different min uniques, so it really brings down guys. But Amon's another guy I want to get to. Jamison Williams is still cheap. The Losevic, I know you said you want to be a little under on him. He does look very chalky. Like I said, he was pretty much out there 100% last week with 6 targets. He just got to get a little bit more, do more. But we got a lot of cheap guys, like you said, the Tyler Johnson, Lamb McConkey's only 4,900 still. I do want to get a little Chargers still.
McConkey, that's a good call.
I like Pierce, like you said, at 4,500. Mitchell's at 4K. Maybe one of those guys hit a deep ball. Again, it seems like Anthony Richardson likes throwing those deep balls. He missed a few, but he hit one with Pierce. So, maybe they take a couple more shots this week. If you do want to run back in the Chargers game, Deontay Johnson's 5,100. I might, that's one guy. Quentin Johnston's still cheap. He got a lot of volume thrown his way. People are talking about Naylor and Darnold stacks with Jefferson type thing. He's not getting any ownership, but he's a cheap guy. Pickens at 5,800. He got a lot of work from Fields. If you're stacking Fields, I did a Fields Pickens stack like that. No one's really talking about Jaguars this week. You got a couple cheap guys in Davis and even Kirk's cheap too, but actually Cleveland's been paying a faster pace with Watson at quarterback, but obviously their defense is very, very good.
It's very good, but it's interesting. They had the most exaggerated home road splits last year of any team in history, basically. And they're on the road. So maybe you can use that as a reason to play Jacksonville.
Yeah, maybe I'll throw a Jacksonville stack in. I'm not getting a lot of those guys. All the Jacksonville guys are kind of lower. Like Brian Robinson had that touchdown last week that you had in your line, that one good lineup you had going late. Rashid Shaheed's on the bottom. These guys are just on the bottom of the sims that I'm thinking about bumping up to getting the 3, 4, 5% maybe. Obviously Bobby gave you a lot of the good plays. Debo, Godwin's up there, Rice, those guys are everyone's going to tell you to play them. Maybe I'm getting a decent amount of Lamb, like 12%, 13%, which I like. I'm probably under, that would be under what his ownership is, but I think that game's fast paced too. So I like the Lamb Kamara secondary pairing a little bit. I hand build a couple of those. So
yeah. All right, Sam Milbus just got in here. Sam, we can rewind it, man. We went through every part of every game that we like. I can really quickly say I have Tampa Bay, Detroit, LA Rams, Arizona, San Francisco, Minnesota, Washington Giants, Cincy, and KC in that order, and then a little bit of Indy, Green Bay. All right, let's get into tight ends. As you mentioned, not a big tight end week, which it's odd that there's basically it feels like everyone's under-owned at tight end. Nobody's getting any ownership. What are they doing? You have to play one. You know what I mean? Look at this spread out ownership. I don't know if I've ever seen it this exaggerated at tight end. So start it off, Rody. What do you like here?
We have 3 big tight ends this week. Laporta, Kelsey, and McBride. You could probably then there's the next tier downs like Kittle, Ingram, Andrews in the 5K. And then you just got a bunch of cheap guys, really. That I like. But I probably like Laporta a little bit more. He's looking at lower ownership. I like him. McBride's the higher owned one. I've always been a Kelsey kind of guy. I think he does have a bounce back week this week. I think Mark Andrews has a bounce back week at 5K. Mike Gesicki's in the cash build lineup at 3,100. He had work last week with a touchdown. He's a possible
touchdown wiped off, unfortunately.
Huh? Oh, that's the one that got wiped off. You're right. He didn't complete the catch, but he's getting looks in the red zone, which is what I was trying to mean. Sorry, but I forgot he got that taken away. If you want another person to stack with Fields, that Freiermuth is still too cheap at 4,100. I expect him to ramp up a little bit if they get the passing. Remember, they kicked 6 field goals last week. Pittsburgh did. They turned some of those into touchdowns. You could look for Freiermuth in the red zone. He's been a big target previous years. Colby Parkinson is probably the one of my favorite ones with the Stafford stack. I like to go to him in the Stafford stack. I think people will play like McBride in the run back against him, but I like the 3,100. I like the Parkinson play. He is getting ownership. He'd probably be another cash game pick. But
played out every snap last week, basically.
Yeah, he played a ton, and I just want to play the guy. I like him. I have him in best ball bunch too. So obviously, with Higbee's out right now, but. We got Mudd 3,200 is another loan guy, and then pretty much I'm not getting anybody. Maybe Hurst at 3K. You could Chargers if you want to stack the Chargers, and then another low owned guy no one's really talking about is Cade Otton. I was going to mention him. We talked about we like that game in the Bucks a little bit. You got McMillan, you got Evans, you got Godwin. He's just not getting a lot of work, but he maybe he ramps up a little bit. He was always good in the red zone. So if you want to stack, Baker with him, you can do that. Besides that, I don't really have anybody lower than. I mean, those guys are all kind of some cheap guys, expensive guys. That's pretty much my pool.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I'm looking at it here because, so for what it's worth, I have a strong take that Laporte is a better play than Kelsey. I understand. I love Kelsey too. I just don't think we're going to be seeing the same exact version of Travis Kelsey a lot at the start of the year. They made it very clear they want him healthy for the playoffs. He's talked a lot about how he's probably not going to be used like he has in years past. They've used that lingo in the past, though, and it kind of then we end up with the 3-touchdown Kelsey game, and you're like, oh, why didn't I have any Kelsey? But personally, I like Laporta better than Ingram and better than Kelsey, and I like McBride next if I was going to go from the top end. From the value perspective, I think the Gesicki play is even better than I thought it was. And so here's the thing: Daniel Hudson, who was the other tight end, he had 3 targets last week, but he fumbled inside the 5 and turned the ball over when they were about to score. And he dropped a first down when they were trying to stay in the game, Cincinnati. So, and he's out this week. So it's going to be Gesicki, I think, getting the snaps. I'll eat whatever the little bit of chalk this is. I'll be overweight, both Parkinson, Gesicki. But I love the Laporta thing. I really do. I think I want to take advantage of when he's low owned. I love the McBride thing. I feel gross about it, but I don't even need to, but I wanted to pair, and because I feel so wishy-washy about tight ends, I am pairing Zach Ertz with Jaden Daniels a little bit. And the other contrarian one I like is I'm good with the Bowers idea, especially if you're going to want to run back for the, stacking Lamar and all that.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to get to defense and special teams here. Just talk through it. I know that, again, people say it doesn't matter, whatever. I understand, but I still think we have to touch on it. And there are some. I did find myself, especially on FanDuel, very easily able to play the Baltimore defense against the Raiders, and that feels very comfortable to me. So it's harder to do on DraftKings. What do you have the most defense this week, Roddy?
Well, in the builds I built so far for the Sims, I'm getting Packers. Panthers are the cheap one. They're both cheap. Packers, Panthers are both cheap. Patriots a little bit against Seahawks. I like the Lions a little bit against the Bucks. I'm very spread out. I mean, none of these are. I'm under 15% on every defense. Broncos are the ones I'm getting a lot in my hand builds. I think 2,800. And then, Panthers, I'm getting some, like you said. You said the Panthers were your highest one, right?
Yeah, they're my highest one right now. Doesn't feel great.
Yeah, I'm getting quite a few of them too. They're just cheap.
Yeah.
And we always play those 2K defense. Why can't we get a 2K flat one? Come on, DK.
I know the Panthers, I think, everybody should be minimum cost at every position. How about that? Just until you guys look like an actual NFL team. Yeah. And by the way, I like the Panthers to cover today, by the way, against the Chargers.
Yeah, you're hating on my Chargers today. Maybe the Charger stack's good and they do cover and they Deontay Johnson scores 2 touchdowns or something.
Teams that lost by 35 points or more and the following week as underdogs are 48-18-2 against the spread over the last 20 years. I read that stat earlier and I thought it was kind of cool. So it justified my ridiculous Carolina take. But I'm telling you, I don't think Carolina's as bad as they looked last week. I think they're bad, but they're not that bad. All right, so my defenses are obviously I have Carolina because I needed to save money. I'm trying to get one of those big receivers in a good portion of my lineups, or one of the big tight ends, or one of the big tight ends. I have the Giants against, even though I like Daniels, I am totally comfortable that this guy's going to make some mistakes. I have the Jaguars, the Vikings, the Lions as my next 3. And then I have the Packers a little bit. Again, I like Richardson as a quarterback, but I'm going to attack these guys that I'm playing, not in lineups where I'm not using them, because there is, I mean, how many jump balls do we have to see before we start taking defenses against these guys, especially on those long jump balls, because those could turn into 70-yard, defensive returns for touchdowns because there's nobody set up ready to block anything. I don't know. I could see that the Packers one working out a little bit, and you could pair it with the running back over there with Jacobs. I almost said Aaron Jones, but I'm getting used to it now.
I'm getting used to it.
All right, so we got about a few more minutes, guys. Pop in some questions or thoughts. I'm going to try and clear everything that I wrote here and see if I can. Let's see. I have the games. Yeah, let's get rid of this, and then I'm going to run a quick build. But while we're doing that, feel free to drop in any questions. And Rody, any strong takes on any games today? Any player that you're exceptionally expecting to be overweight on? And it can't really be Mason because he's going to be popular anyway. But anybody off the board that you might be. You mentioned some great off the board names. Anybody you've got 15 or 20% of that might be 5% or less.
Ooh, I mean, Evans is one we talked about that I'm gonna like. Charbonnet was a little owner, but I think he ends up more owned than people think. Shoot, my freaking Sabersim just like froze on me.
Did it?
What other guys did I mention? Man, 5%. That's a tough question.
It doesn't have to be 5. I mean, just somebody low owned that you like, that you're over the field on.
I mean, Marvin here. No. Yeah, Marvin Harrison bounce back game, but
that's a big one.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Like if you get 5% of them, you'll be 5 times the field.
I think I'm going to make a Jags. I'm going to up my Jags exposure a little bit. Like you said, maybe Kirk's at 5% right now. I'm seeing.
Yep.
Bounce back game for him. And Liam McConkey, I upped his percent in my optimizer. He's at 5%.
I like that one.
And the Green Bay receivers are kind of odd. I did stack a Willis stack. I'm getting some of them. Jaden, all of them are like super low owned actually. Watson at 5K. Yeah, Jaden Reed at 6K. But if you want to stack that game or play the Packers defense like we talked about, you can do that too.
Yep. I didn't reset all the exposures. Damn it.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a refresh in a minute. But guys, injuries come out at noon. Everyone's active, inactive here coming out. I mean, they finally
announced. I'm looking in my thing here, see if anybody. Josh Downs inactive. We knew that. We expected that. Kenneth Walker inactive. We expected that. Okay, nothing new on that one. I really hope there's not much because I really get it, now that I'm.
Yeah, the Marshawn Lloyd play is back this week. I think that may take people off Jacobs, but I still like Jacobs.
What do you?
What
you like that, huh? The Lloyd?
No, I don't. I like Jacobs more. I don't hope I don't get any Lloyd, but I might.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Ferguson won't play, so the Shoemaker call. The question was, I like the Chargers D better than the Patriots D, but I mean both are viable. There's a question in the chat for that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Both
Palmer's active. Jamison Williams not expected to be limited, so that's good news. I know he's questionable Q tag. 5,300 is a decent play. Still think he can do work.
I feel like a proud papa with Jamison Williams. I've been literally every game he's played since he had the rookie year where he had to get sit out for a while and everything. Yeah. Every game. How am I thought I reset all these things. All right, whatever. Let's see. This is what Saberson came up with. So let's see what it comes up with. Then we'll run the sim and let's see how much it changes. Okay, stacks: Tampa Bay, Giants, Rams, Detroit. Pretty much what you'd expect. Pretty spread out.
Yeah, it's very spread out today. That looks spread out, yeah.
And then let's see the exposures they gave us for all these guys. I'm going to guess no quarterbacks too high, yeah, because they're spread out there. Let's see. They're going to be way over on the running backs. No, Mason only 49%, 31 for Williams. Okay. And then they have Cup at 39. So it's actually not that crazy. I'm gonna run the finish running the sim though and see what the sims change it to, because I have a feeling this is going to change quite a bit. And I think you're going to see a lot more ownership than. I mean, I'm not used to Saberson spitting out such a wide net. You know what I mean? Usually we get like guys who are 60, 75, 80% owned. That's what I was getting before. All right, let's see this. We're going to sort by RA, ROI, and nothing. Nothing at all happened. Wow, that's weird. I don't even understand how that's possible. Oh, no, it changed a little bit. All right, so team stacks. Let's see what changed. Yeah, so it went up a little. So more Tampa, Rams. But I mean, this is pretty spread out, don't you think, Rudy? Nobody more than 11% as a stack.
Yeah, it's very spread out. I think I'm kind of keeping a core. That's why I said like earlier, like I'm keeping some of the chalk guys. I think it's going to be a chalky week with some of these cheaper chalk, Mason, Charbonnet, and then some of the main guys. I'm kind of keeping that core, and then I'm just rotating in different stacks. Like I'm playing I'm spreading out my stacks. I currently think I'm getting too much Giants and too much Baker in this build that I got going on. I know you're getting a lot of the Tampa, and Giants are up there for you a little bit. Yeah, very spread out for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's pretty interesting to see it. I'm not used to seeing it so spread out. So I'm gonna do my normal thing here. First we'll answer Samuel's question. What is too low to go as a final wide receiver for an all-around value? I think that the lowest I'm going is 3,300, and it's Ty Johnson or Alan Lazard. How about you? Probably the lowest you're going to, I'm guessing.
What is the what's it called? Low final receiver spot?
Receiver, I think, is the question.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Sorry.
Nobody really below 3,300 that I found that I really needed to play, but maybe you could
No,
speculate.
I don't think there wasn't a 3K guy, was there?
No, nobody flat. Like there's the Josevic at 38, but yeah. Well, they're really into fading Josevic on the Saber Sim build. They don't like this.
Yeah, they are.
They're into kind of fading all the cheap receivers, to be honest with you. I don't know how they're getting all these.
Oh wait, I actually think I have a 3K guy. I don't know if I have him in any lineups, but like one guy that I mentioned. Oh no, he's not 3K. Luke McCaffrey for Washington.
Okay.
A little bit 3,800, another low owned guy. But I like Terry McLaurin. He ain't getting any ownership either. I just put Terry McLaurin in my lineup, but Luke McCaffrey I was considering at 3,800. I don't know if I'll see if he's on my final roster sim bill when I get done. But
yeah. I love that, and you stole part of my take, and that was going to be that I'm gonna go back to
that game.
Well, I'm gonna say McLaurin.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's a spread out, but none of these guys are getting any ownership. McLaurin, Josh Palmer, or Jameson Williams is going to have some ownership, so I can't use him. So let's say McLaurin or Josh Palmer end up on a millionaire winning lineup. No, it's not even like where all my ownership's going or anything, but I just wanted a really hot take to end that part of it. Also, Carolina is a sneaky upset pick today, and for what it's worth, I think this Green Bay Indy line is atrocious. I understand. I like Indy, by the way. I like Richardson. I'm on his side, but I don't think they should be road favorites, even with Malik, Willis, starting at quarterback. I like the Packers to win that game. Those are my just general takes. I agree with Jimmy's point here about Edwards. I do think this might end up being more of an Edwards game than a Dobbins game, but that's where I'm at. Rody, final thoughts, and then take us out of here.
Yeah, we gave away a lot of picks. We gave away a lot of plays. It's very spread out today. I think we got a lot of good low ownership guys in this. We talked about today to get on to mix around that chalk that we're going to have today. So don't get off the board too crazy. I know like some sims want to fade some guys, maybe the Losevic, but play the other chalk. Kind of just don't go crazy. Build a nice little core, and then rotate these different stacks around it. That's what I'm doing. That's my final take. And as always, guys, let's get it and go.